Welcome everyone, bright and early, to this session on co-design better funding programmes with and for young people, led by our friends at the Co-op Foundation and in partnership with UnLtd. This session, I'm sure many of you know, is part of our festival. If I could just ask everyone, no worries, Nancy. This session is part of our Festival of Learning 2025, and we are super excited to have you here with us. I am Sabuhi, I am the Director of Place-Based Giving at London Funders. So the festival, I'm hoping that many of you have been to our sessions. We had jam-packed sessions last week. Our Festival of Learning, which is our annual flagship event, is an opportunity for London Funders members to come together, share learning and ideas, and to be inspired by others in the funding community and civil society. We are in our final week of this 2-week festival. We still have some sessions left in our programme. You can find those on the website. And we have our festival finale on Thursday, so do sign up for that. That is an in-person event in London. Now, this session today is going to be recorded, and that will help us write up our post-festival report and share learning with the whole of London Funders membership. We'll also be posting about this event, so please do share what you're learning from this session on social media too. And I'm now going to hand over to our friends at the Co-op Foundation to introduce themselves along with UnLtd and share with us how they identified and responded to the needs of young entrepreneurs. Over to you.
Thank you so much, and good morning, everyone. Great to see some familiar faces joining our session and also some new faces too. I'm excited to be here today to discuss how our Funding Futures program, a funding program that aims to increase financial resilience in communities, has been shaped by young people for young people. For those of you who don't know the Co-op Foundation, we are a Co-op charity and we are cooperating for a fairer world. We believe cooperation is at the heart of strong communities, and this makes us a different funder. And as we know, sadly, the last few years have been challenging, especially for less privileged communities in the UK and across the world. The pandemic and the ongoing cost of living crisis have exacerbated existing inequities, leaving many young people sidelined by traditional financial systems. The Funding Futures program is a collaboration between UnLtd, the Co-op Foundation and Phoenix, and is turning the narrative on its head. So what does it mean to co-design funding programs with young people with lived experience for young people? It means giving them more power to take the lead in crafting solutions that reflect their unique challenges and aspirations. This session will showcase how involving young people in the funding process leads to more equitable and inclusive funding programs. I would also like to mention that as participatory grant makers, the Co-op Foundation, we have various other funding programs like the Young Game Changers Fund. We have also our delivery partners joining this call. The Pool Fund on Climate Activists with Blackgrave Trust, where we significantly try to co-design and work with people with lived experience to ensure what we design really meets the communities we want to support. So this session will start with our partners who are delivering Funding Futures. Beatrice Becker, Design and Delivery Manager from UnLtd, and Sabina Peck, Senior Researcher from UnLtd, who will say more about the program and explain the co-design process. And then we are very delighted and honored to be followed by the young people so that you can directly hear from them. We have Colm Teague, Young Advisor, who has been participant in the Funding Futures co-design workshops, and he's also an engagement officer at the Advantage Foundation. And Eric Bishika, Funding Futures Advisory Group member, and also social entrepreneur and director of the Business Incubator Group. So I invite you to bring your curiosity and your questions, and let's reflect how we can collectively create funding programs that serve our communities by co-designing with them. And as we embark on this journey today, let's commit to listening, learning, and leading with empathy and asking questions, please. Share any questions in the Zoom chat area throughout the session. We hope the short presentation in the beginning will be just the starting point for further discussions during our Q&A. And let's start by getting to know a bit more about the funders in this room. Please we have a short Menti link to share some initial thoughts. Sabina, can you share the Menti link in the chat?
I'm hoping that it's come up on everybody's screens. So if you go to the top, if you go to menti.com and you can use that code to participate, I think might be the easiest way, if that's okay.
Thank you.
If anybody can't see, please do let me know.
And our first question is about, in your organizations, we would love to know more. To what extent do you design your funding programs with the communities your funding is aiming to support? Thank you, Bea. Just a couple minutes. Can everybody access the Menti? Okay. So it looks like, a lot of the participants in these sessions have already experience and expertise in this area. We hope we can, by the end of the session, or maybe in the future following this session, we'll get everybody to a large extent. But of course, co-creation depends on the context and the resources we have internally and our capacity. So may not always be, the perfect solution depending on our circumstances as funders. Shall we go to the second question? What is the biggest challenge you face when involving communities in designing your funding programs? We mainly co-design programs at the COP Foundation with young people, so definitely trust can be a challenge because it takes time to create trust with the young people. And, when we have, fast-pacing kind of funding program design deadlines, that can be an issue. And time, of course. We've all experienced this. Just a couple more minutes in case anybody else would like to share any more. Patience, that's interesting. Is it patience, our patience, or the patience of young people? Something to explore. Funding co-production, yes. We continually reflect in the resources, financial resources we need to dedicate to doing co-design, because of course, take resources from the funding we have available for the charities or the individuals we want to support. Managing expectations, yes, definitely, around clear communications. Staff resource, yes. We recently employed a new member in our team to address this issue. Okay, and shall we go to the last question? Which aspect of co-design do you most want to improve in your funding programs? So we have a variety of options here, addressing power dynamics between funders and the communities, creating inclusive and accessible processes, establishing clear communication, supporting participants' well-being, and then anybody else would like to share any more? Okay, so today we are going to share some insights, I guess, from the young people especially, and UnLtd on creating more inclusive and accessible processes, but also the importance of, clear communications frameworks, and how we make sure, we support and we help develop the people we work with. So Sabina and Bea, over to you to start our presentation. Thank you, everybody who shared, your experiences so far in co-designing. I hope in, the Q&A session we'll get to know a little bit more about your experience too. So yeah, Sabina and Bea, over to you to start, I guess, discussion and explanation of how has been our experience of co-designing. Thank you.
Thank you, Samina, and hi everyone. Good morning. And really excited to be here today and talk about my favorite subject, that is co-design. And yeah, super interesting to hear already kind of like what interests you, what are sort of the challenges that you experience, and definitely relate to a lot of them. And yeah, looking forward to hopefully hear from you as well and hear about your work later today. But yeah, before we jumped in, we thought we'd briefly speak about what we do at UnLtd. So we are a foundation for social entrepreneurs. So we find, fund and support social entrepreneurs from across the UK. These are people with solutions to change our society for the better. And we really believe that social entrepreneurs should be at the heart of everything that we do at UnLtd, and that ultimately, people with lived experience of a social issue are best placed to address it. And this is really at the heart of why we have been working with young social entrepreneurs to co-design the Funding Futures program in the way that we have. Next slide, please. So as Amina already mentioned, we set up the program in 2024 in partnership with Corp Foundation and Phoenix Group to support young social entrepreneurs between the ages of 16 to 30 years old with the most impactful ideas to help those that have been sidelined by the financial system. We have already awarded 20 social entrepreneurs out of our 30 social entrepreneurs by 2026 target, which is really exciting. And a second strand of this work is about developing a library of resources and practical tools to help increase the financial skills and resilience of the social entrepreneurs that we support. Next slide, please. So when we started this work, we spent about 6 months during a design phase where we actively listened to more than 35 young people from across the UK and worked closely with 10 of them over 3 days to co-design a support package and end-to-end program grounded in their lived experience. So this work obviously allowed us to learn about their barriers, to run and grow a social business, what financial exclusion and inclusion mean to them, but also how to best engage them, not just in the delivery of our support, but also in co-design, which has been incredibly valuable for us. So next slide, please. This is what the co-design journey that we took at the start of the program looked like. And what I always like to say is that it's often not enough to just host a couple of workshops. There's a lot of work and preparation that happens behind the scenes to get participants to that point where they're able to meaningfully participate. So we spend a lot of time identifying our co-design participants by sharing an open invitation. We selected 10 young people, as mentioned, from a diverse range of backgrounds and different stages in their entrepreneurial journeys. And we offered them the opportunity to have one-to-one calls with us and attend an online welcome session as part of our onboarding. And this was really intended to build relationships with them at the very start and ensure everyone's safety and comfort and build that foundation of belonging with the whole group. Then we jumped into our 3 co-design workshops where we again focused heavily on like building connection, belonging, so that young people could enter those spaces as themselves, and then explored our shared understanding of financial exclusion and inclusion, reflected on what young people need to start, run and grow a social business and how UnLtd might meaningfully support them, how might we meaningfully support them. And then we prototyped an end-to-end program of support and bespoke support offer for and with young social entrepreneurs. We've also run a branding workshop with a separate group of young people that has really shaped our the program's branding and messaging, which is what I guess you see in our slides today. So yeah, really exciting. I'll hand over to Sabina now to talk a little bit more about what we learned through this process.
Thanks, Bea. And yeah, just echoing what you said, really excited to be here. We've been working on this a long time, so it's great to be able to share it a bit more widely. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what we learned from the co-design process, both in terms of like the subjects of young people and what they think about financial inclusion, financial exclusion and social business, but also about their challenges and also what it means and what it looks like to work with young people and young social entrepreneurs. So first of all, we learned that young people, and in particular young people who have experience of or are close to people with experience of financial exclusion, see multiple causes of financial exclusion, including inequitable systems, trends, values and cultures, as well as multiple impacts, which looks like they told us lived experience of poverty and poor access to financial information, products and opportunities, as well as a whole range of other impacts. But on the flip side, they also have a really clear vision of what a financially inclusive future might look like, where people and communities have more control and autonomy over their own finances and enjoy more inclusive access to knowledge and skills. And they were really clear in their kind of understanding and like aspiration of how social business can contribute to this. And this is a really lovely quote that someone said, that social enterprises combine the innovative drive of business with the heart of community work, and that like really specific place they occupy can help to move towards a more financially inclusive future. We also learned about the challenges that young people face in terms of starting and developing social businesses. They told us that there were challenges around accessing funds and finances, gaining skills and knowledge, gaining visibility and credibility as young entrepreneurs, and also ensuring that they look after their own well-being and personal development. And that really shone through actually in a way that we were not surprised by, but maybe surprised by how much it came through. So learning about kind of these challenges and these kind of opinions and experiences, it helped us to co-create a tailored program that really responds to what they told us. And so I want to give a few examples of what we heard from young social entrepreneurs, and then what we came up with as a kind of way to respond to that. So first of all, young people told us, I don't know what I don't know. They told us that navigating how to access funding and support can be really bewildering and off-putting. So we worked hard to demystify the what and the how of the support at UnLtd. And that looked like making information more accessible and clearly signposted on, for example, our website, and also creating new spaces for guidance, like having launching a new pre-application support workshop, which has been really well received. They told us I need to protect my own well-being. As I mentioned, young people told us that this was a key priority for them. They told us about lack of confidence, imposter syndrome, burnout and fatigue. So we collated and improved our existing resources and processes, including developing resources around, for example, paying yourself, which was a key area that came out. We've updated our processes around safeguarding, and we're continuing to improve always our trauma-informed approach to our support. Young people told us, I want to feel connected. It was really clear that it was so important for young people to be able to connect to other social entrepreneurs, to share their stories and to reduce their isolation. So we broadened out our monthly peer support online calls, and we've actively encouraged Funding Futures awardees to attend, and they have been, as well as creating opportunities for people in the programme to meet in other kind of ad hoc ways. And finally, a big one was wanting to develop skills and knowledge. So we learned that they're hungry to learn in order to develop their ventures. So we've again collated key resources and support to make accessing that as straightforward as possible, including creating that financial fundamentals hub that Bea mentioned earlier, with key resources around financial literacy and resilience. Importantly, though, we found that it wasn't only the what we did that was important, but it was the how that we did it. So we created some key principles for working with young people based on our co-design experiences. Excuse me. So our first one is around centering inclusion and creating a safe space where people feel like they belong. This was by far the most important element to participants in the room. It meant they felt comfortable to share their insights and felt like their voice was heard. And for us, this looked like things like having a good balance of activities, setting clear expectations early on about how we work together, and also being proactive in putting measures in place to keep people comfortable. Things as simple as having spaces to charge your phone were really appreciated. Making sure that communication was clear and accessible. So young people told us they really valued being kept in the loop, and they liked being able to share information in a variety of ways. So we used WhatsApp, email, Teams calls, phone calls if they wanted them, a wide variety of ways to stay in touch with each other. And we gave options for people to communicate in the way that felt best for them. And finally, prioritising time, space and energy to creating connections and promoting conversation. So we found that when young people felt that they were better connected to others in the room, they were more comfortable sharing ideas and insights, which helped us to gain a richer understanding of their needs. And I think this is really nicely articulated in these couple of quotations that we got in our feedback, which really highlight, I think, the positive experience that young people had during the co-design workshops, where it was a safe, inclusive space and they felt listened to. So I'm going to pass back to Bea, who's going to talk a bit more about how we're continuing co-design throughout the course of the programme. Thanks, Bea.
Thanks, Sabina. Yeah, so as you can probably see, this work has really inspired us to keep co-designing with young people beyond that initial design phase and into the delivery of the program as well. So young people continue to be involved in improving and adapting the program. They do this in 3 ways. They play a key role in our decision-making and assessment process. So we have a ratio of 2 young people to 1 unlimited staff in both clusters, which are essentially our first screening process of the applications that we receive, and our panel interviews where we invite social entrepreneurs to discuss their application and answer clarifying questions. So our decision is very much weighted towards the young people that take part in this process as well. Then we have an advisory group, which Eric is part of and Colin used to be part of as well, which is made of 7 young people, UnLtd and Cope Foundation, and this group aims to essentially help us shape the strategic direction of the program and continuously improve our support based on the learnings that we get from our award winners, as well as the group's shared experience and expertise. And then something that we have only recently started piloting is a series of design workshops with the award winners themselves to get their input and contribution on shaping key elements of our support as we are delivering it, ensuring that they're really answering and meeting their needs as they emerge through the program. And there you can see a photo of a lovely advisory group and a framework, I guess, that we've started using where to update the group on how their ideas are shaping our work as we're delivering it. So next slide, please. What this work has done, and Sabina has already spoke to this quite a bit already, is that it challenges us to think critically about how we can invite our social entrepreneurs to participate in the development of our work. And we recently published a blog where I guess we distilled these reflections into 4 key lessons or principles, and I'm not going to go into too much detail over about the first 2 points because Sabina has already mentioned these. But yes, as said, building that sense of belonging right from the start has really been fundamental to work well together as a co-design group. And then, yeah, based on that, working relationally and making time for playfulness and connection. I think oftentimes when you hear the word design, people tend to think about creating something new, but it's not so much just about creating something new. It is about how you make things happen, and I think it really showed in this work. And I think making part for genuine connection resulted in young people not just shaping the program but becoming part of it. And I think the way that young people continue to be involved is really showing this for us. But really, what I wanted to touch on before I hand over to Colin is around, I guess, what does it look like to do co-design well and equitably? It does definitely require a significant investment of resources and time, as some of you have already mentioned at the beginning of the Mentimeter. We paid and arranged for all of our participants travel and accommodation, provided additional support to those who needed it, and also navigated not always straightforward internal processes to turn young people's ideas to life. But it is worth it, and the reason that it is always worth it is that it allows you, and it has allowed us, to create a product and a service that ultimately works for your end users, in our case for our social entrepreneurs, and it's ensuring that it can continue to evolve with them and with their needs as they develop and evolve. So, and finally, I guess I wanted to end with a little bit of reassurance, because I know that often co-design can feel intimidating, and there can be a lot of pressure around doing it well and doing it perfectly, which obviously we should all do. But I guess what we learned through this process is that co-design does not always have to look the same, and also most importantly, it might not always be the right answer, and that's okay. So we said that every aspect of our program was co-designed with young people, and that is not the point of co-design. It would have been slightly irresponsible for us to invite young people to participate in shaping something that we didn't have the agency to change, like the size of our grants or the application process or other strategic priorities like we with co-op, for instance. And through this work, we had extensive conversations about what could be shaped from scratch, and therefore how much power we could effectively share with young people. And I think through this process, we learned that it is key to provide clarity over what is fixed and what is open, what can be shaped and explored, and defining those boundaries within which we're inviting social entrepreneurs to co-design with us. And so I think this is really pushing us to be even more transparent about the internal workings of our operations, both internally amongst colleagues, but also with our stakeholders, with young people. And it's really helping us to think strategically about what can be co-designed, but also how much co-design, or what shades of co-design can we embed within our work and make participation inclusive, meaningful, and effective wherever that may happen across our end-to-end service. So I'm gonna stop here, but in the next slide we have a QR code to our blog if you'd like to learn more about these our reflections and some practical examples also of how we applied co-design through this work. Our contact details are at the top, so please do feel free to reach out. We're always loving to exchange ideas and best practices. We're also hosting a showcase event on the 24th of June in London, where we'll be celebrating the first year of this program with our partners and the young people and the award winners that are involved in the program. So yeah, do join us, and yeah, if you would like to take part, get involved, again, please do email us, and we'll share all the relevant information. Yeah, thank you. I'm going to hand over to Colin, one of our co-design participants and really Funding Futures champion, to share a bit of his experience of this work as well.
Yes, thank you, Dee. Really, I'll just be echoing a lot of what was said there, to be honest. But so yeah, I was a participant in UnLtd's co-design workshops, and I was lucky enough to be invited back to take part in the panelist and then further down the line, be part of the advisory group as well. But going back to the beginning, this time last year, I was working with a Belfast-based social enterprise called Voice in the Void, and I was sitting on their steering group, just kind of steering the direction of where they want to go as a social enterprise. And that's when my colleague presented me with the opportunity to work with UnLtd. But honestly, like at the time, I was new to the sector, and a part of me had a bit of imposter syndrome walking into this. I knew basics around social enterprise, but was still finding my bearings in the sector. However, I jumped at the opportunity. I wanted to meet more social entrepreneurs across the UK and just learn more about the sector as a whole. Initially, we were all a little uncertain as to what these couple of workshops would entail. We got to go to sessions in London, Liverpool, and Belfast. And I think you can go on to the next slide there as well. Feel free to. And yeah, you can fly ahead to the next one as well. Thank you. So yeah, like yeah, you can see me there taking in the scenes and everything. And London like was great getting to go over. And we were immersed in social enterprise. So for example, in Liverpool, we had a session in Squash, which was a social enterprise cafe that used organic practices and was sustainable, and also employed people from marginalised groups. So this was inspiring to see financial exclusion being tackled in practice. And personally, it gave me greater clarity on the wider societal impact social enterprise could have. So this brings me to another element of the co-design workshops. And you can see some of the kind of brainstorming activities we had there on the big sheets on the screen. There was an incredible wealth of lived experience and diversity of thought in the group. from those who ran their own social enterprise to those like myself who worked in social enterprise and had greater aspirations. And then there was also the likes of, say, students and that who maybe had a bit more of a limited knowledge on what social enterprise could accomplish. So we were all in different stages of our social enterprise or our social entrepreneurial journey. But the more comfortable we got with each other and through unique icebreakers and activities, the more we showed or the more we shared our own aspirations. I got benefit from this as I do have a startup idea, but didn't even realize I would be able to take the form of a social enterprise after some of the discussions we had had. And with these discussions, we were given prompts and problem-solving activities. And these tasks give us space to share ideas, brainstorm, debate, disagree, laugh, and ultimately come to conclusions none of us would have been able to land at as individuals. One of these discussions was kind of looking at the notion of what if every organization was successful in achieving its mission. And oddly enough, like that's something you rarely think about. You know, if you actually achieved what you set out to do in the first place, because we get caught up in so much of what's hitting us as like entrepreneurs, like with funding and when am I going to get the next bit of money in and stuff, and can I even keep doing what I'm doing? Because you're often forced to wear many hats. But looking at that end goal is something you never really get the luxury to do. And we were talking the other day there, and be very delicately put it. We should thrive, not just survive. And I think that's so important when it comes to thinking about financial exclusion. It's not really just about getting everyone's head above water. It's about what are the possibilities that will be unlocked once a lot more society is financially free. And finally, I'll just briefly touch upon my experience with UnLtd beyond the co-design workshops, where I was lucky enough to have been invited back for the panels and advisory group. And I really did get to get a front row seat and see all what had been talked about in those earlier sessions and see that come into fruition. Myself and Eric and a few others from across the UK working in social enterprise and who were social entrepreneurs were included in these discussions, and that really embodies what was discussed in the initial workshops as we continued to give that external perspective and how we can really continue to break down barriers and engaging these hard to reach marginalised groups. But really that's all for me, and I'd just like to say again thanks to UnLtd, like my broader understanding of what social enterprise could accomplish was quite limited before these sessions, and I'm working in a non-profit at the moment, and it's definitely served me well, this experience. So just want to say thanks, and thanks everyone for listening. I'm happy to take any questions, and I'll pass it on to Eric here now. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much for that Colin as well. I remember the times as well we had the session, so yeah, I remember like it a lot better yesterday. I'll just briefly introduce myself, and thanks to UnLtd as well for having me here. My name is Eric Bashika, Director of the Business Incubator Group, and also Young Entrepreneur as well in my own right, and also Funding Futures advisory member and also panelist. So my journey with UnLtd actually started a long time ago, around about 2016, so just over 10 years when I initially applied. But I've been part of the Funding Futures program throughout the clusters, the panels, and the advisory group. And my role mainly has been to shape the program and more or less bring in my own lived experience as a previous award winner as well, and also representing people from backgrounds like myself. Because kind of going back to how I started at 13 with a business idea that I had while I was in school. And one of the reasons I started that business is because I had no sources of income, and at that time my life could have gone a different way, and it was really learning about that really brought me into that path, which then led me on to starting my social enterprise. Since being part of the program, I've been able to share real ideas and also influence real decisions in how the program works and how it's shaped, and also how young people can also navigate the program. Because for many young people, it can be really different, and especially even when I started, I wasn't really confident. You might have seen some of the pictures. I'm the one with my arms out and stuff like that. But at the beginning, I wasn't so confident. It was really being in a safe space and an environment where I had people that would listen to me and also able to help me as well and guide me a little bit in the right direction, that I was able to discover that. And that's what this program really does. And it's not just about giving feedback. What we do as part of the advisory members, it's actually making the program better for the next cohort. And being part of the clusters and also the panels, and also being in the process myself, I've been able to see a full sort of 360 view of every aspect of the program, and that has really helped us to improve the program a lot more, because we've not only gone through the program, but we're also seeing how the program is now for the current young people. And also I've been proud to represent people from my own background, the BME background, other Black and young minority ethnic people as well, who struggle not only just really like a little bit of one of the points that I was touching on a little bit before, and says, you don't know what you don't know. And at that time when I was getting started, I didn't know what I didn't know. And a lot of the young people, they're all going through the same boat. And a lot of the times it's very isolating when you're going on that journey. So this experience really boosted my confidence, it helped me to grow personally, and I've built stronger connections as well with other individuals like Colm, like other entrepreneurs as well that we have on the advisory board and the cluster as well. So it's been really fun as well. That's why you can see we're smiling in the pictures. And another thing as well, what's been really, really good is meeting like-minded people is always an amazing thing, because you can share different ideas, and also you know that you're not alone, and someone else is always also doing something similar to you. So seeing our voices heard in real action, and also had a really massive impact on the program, because all the feedback that we added and inputted into the program were implemented as well throughout the clusters and also the panels. And it happened really fast, which was really, really good, because it happened on the next cohort, and those changes were applied. And these changes as well directly impact the young people, which were really, really good. So working as well with people who are open to rethinking the system and also testing out new ideas, that was really, really good as well. And knowing that I've made an impact in someone's life, because I know the Limited as a whole has had an impact in my life, especially at that time when I was really young, and it's added impact to my life to where I am now, and that's why I'm always happy to work with them and input where I can. What's been challenging? So the challenging side of things. So learning kind of the language of the funding world and things like that has been a little bit more tricky, because there's a lot of like sort of jargon and words that maybe people in the industry only know, but other people like won't have a clue what those. So that was a little bit challenging. Balancing work, my own work, and also with other parts as well, was a little bit challenging as well. But it was always really exciting and interesting to see the young people coming through the program as well. Digesting a lot of information in a short time, that was a little bit challenging as well. And also feeling the responsibilities of others as well. That was also a little bit of something like a sort of a burden a little bit to carry, because you know those applications are made by those young people that want to achieve their dreams. So overall, I've enjoyed the experience and really seeing the other side of how the program is designed, and more or less in terms of how we create the program better for the next cohort of young people, and also as well how to find the most marginalised young people as well. And that's really helped us to add to basically bring ideas of how we can reach more young people as well, who are more in more isolated areas. And more or less, I just want to give a massive thank you to UnLtd and also the other social entrepreneurs as well that have been part of this process and making the program better. And thank you. That was the rest of the presentation. Thank you. I'll pass over to the team.
Thank you so much, Eric, Colm, Ben, Sabina. Great to hear your presentation. Stimulations, I hope, for further discussion. I guess, you know, the floor over to the funders who are part of this session. Please feel free, either hold your hand, unmute yourselves, or put some comments or questions in the comment boxes. There are definitely things that came up during the Mentimeter around trust, time, resources, how funders, capacity within the team, the funding kind of level, some of whom have already been answered and shared by co-presenters today. I don't know if I do have some questions, of course, following the presentation, stimulating further discussion, but I don't know, I'm happy to give a couple minutes to anybody in the room who would like to make a start, ask any questions before I jump to, further questions. Also happy to hear any reflections from your experience as funders of co-designing. Would you like to share any examples of challenges and successes you had in your journey? We've seen already in the Mentimeter that a lot of you have, or most of you, are co-designing funding with communities you support. Anybody brave enough to make a start?
I'll jump in. It's really, really great to hear this kind of journey and this kind of program of work in terms of how that reflection is immediately impacted on the next phase of your program. So it's really great to hear about. I think in the context, so I'm from the London Borough of Hackney. We do kind of lots of commissioning work in our wider team, but we recently kind of worked on a project which was all about getting young people to do the research at the start and then informing the design of a project we're working on around young people's health. But I have to say, like, one of the challenges I often find is the cycles of kind of commissioning or funding are so limited in the timeframes that mean that often by the time you've gone through that process, you're halfway through that financial year, and therefore you've got to deliver in the second half of the financial year before the next cycle of funding begins. And I think sometimes the biggest challenges around co-design are the actual system structures that prevent us from doing this work as equitably as we should be able to do across different groups of young people. And maybe we could have longer cycles, maybe 3-year cycles rather than 1-year cycles of funding, which in terms of commissioning cycles rather than other things. So yeah, I think that's one of the challenges, but anytime we do the work with young people, obviously it vastly improves what we can deliver. But if we can do it over a longer period, and the other challenge I'd say is young people aging out is the other part that we often have, is that because young people is a fixed definition based on age, as soon as they get out of that age group, we need new young people to come in. So having systems set up to constantly recruit new young people to be part of these processes is really key too. And I think that's not embedded in every such structure and system. Yeah, that's my kind of initial feedback.
Wow, great reflections, Nancy. Thank you for sharing the challenges. But let's take Laura's questions or points as well, and then we can respond to all of your points actually.
Hi, thank you. My question was more around logistics. Apologies if you mentioned this early on at the beginning, but it sounds like most things, if not everything, was done like face to face, and you're working with young people from across the country. So I just wondered whether there was any work that was done online. If so, was the kind of levels of engagement different? And if not, I just wondered kind of around the rationale and the decisions of making sure that everything was face to face and how that kind of worked in practice, because obviously you're working with young people from across the country. And yeah, just a second question, I just wondered if you've kind of ever had to deal with any sort of major conflict, major disagreements between the young people and how that was handled. Yeah, just a few questions.
Wow, great questions. Thank you, Laura. I'm also going to share some examples from other funding programs that we have experienced very similar. Yeah. Thanks. Okay, maybe we can start by, reflecting on the questions. Anybody, So we have 4 questions, actually, points. One is about, creating longer funding cycles to ensure that, we have processes for co-design. Second is about young people aging. Third is about logistics and the doing work online face to face. And the last is about major conflict or disagreement. I don't know, I would like to invite first Colm and Eric, if you have any reflections on any of these 4 questions.
Yeah, I don't mind jumping in. Thinking like logistically, like obviously I was coming from Northern Ireland, over to England. Yeah, I mean everything was kind of pre-planned in advance, and UnLtd were very kind to sort out transport in that regard. And there was also a session in Belfast which accommodated for us that were based in Northern Ireland, and the guys all came over from England, Scotland, Wales. So it was very good. Like people normally do that, come over to Northern Ireland, so it was nice. And then another one that kind of stood out to me, which kind of got me thinking, was the point you made about conflicts and that within the group and such. And yeah, I mean, going into the sessions, like it was already as well, we had kind of rules for success. I can't remember what the term was at the beginning, but it was like kind of, I don't know, it was like things that make it more trustworthy, sort of. So we kind of had predetermined rules that we all kind of agreed to going in, and that already just made it a space where it was a space where healthy disagreements were allowed to be had. And yeah, there was a lot of different opinions, and a lot of people were coming from different walks of life, and people had different worldviews and everything like that. But that ultimately, like I love the phrase, like you can't get a fire going without a bit of friction. So having that predetermined space where you could have those debates and disagreements, like I think it actually added to the experience, and no one was kind of in the position like, oh, I feel like if I say that, I'm going to sound stupid or something. So I mean, maybe in the first session, it was a bit of the teething issue, like just building up the confidence to really speak out and stuff, but didn't take everyone long, to believe you me. It was good though.
Thank you so much. Great to share your experiences, Colm, and views. Thank you. Eric, do you have any further reflections on any of the questions from your
Yeah, I think Colm touched a little bit on most of it, but yeah, we had a range of different meetings which were pre-planned as well. So some were online and some were in person. The in-person ones, of course, you can have a lot more excitement because more or less as well, because we're all social entrepreneurs running our own ventures or working as part of different organizations. We all have different personalities. So when we all come together, the one thing that we all share is that we've all been part of the same journey. So that was one of the things that reconnected us. So, and when we had the online session, we had a little bit of that as well. So more or less, yeah, both can have the same kind of engagement. It's just more or less, I guess, in terms of how you run it and things like that. And then in terms of like conflict, I don't remember anything kind of major, but we were all able to input, different ideas and be able to look at things differently as well. But yeah, that's pretty much all I could really add.
Thank you, Eric. And Sabina, any reflections on any of the points? I'm going to address the points we haven't shared anything yet.
I'm happy to jump in. Thanks, Colm and Erica. It's really interesting to hear your reflections as well. Thanks everybody for your questions. I'm happy to jump in on the sort of having really short cycles of funding. I really related to that reflection, Nancy, and I think it's something that we face as well, where we invest quite a lot of time in like ideation and improving our services, and then there's always almost a rush to the end to implementation and delivery, and continuous improvement is something that we take really, really seriously, and it's something that's really at the heart of what we do at UnLtd. And I think without us really realizing, I think this co-design work has prompted us to almost like improve our structures and ways of working internally around how we can make continuous learning and improvement and implementation more effective, and I guess shorten those feedback loops where we can have, if we have more of a structure internally where we have those spaces to discuss how we can take an idea and implement it, or what ideas are priority and like what resources do we need to again implement them. That's helping us to mitigate against those short cycles. But I think also, and again, we've had experience of this at the beginning of this program, setting up this program, is managing expectations. I think we knew, but also then didn't fully know, didn't realize how long it takes to do co-design, and not just do co-design, but like prepare and plan for co-design. So we had to have really upfront conversations on about what we could and couldn't achieve. And I guess again, for me, that concept of Shades of Co-Design by Emma Blomkamp really helped again in that sense of like not taking co-design as a prescriptive pre-planned process, but really like adapting it and tailoring it to your organizational context, your funder's organizational context, and the design brief that you're working with. So yeah, I don't know if that answers the question, but some reflection. I don't know, Sabina, if you want to jump in on that as well.
The only thing I was going to say as well is that while obviously there were like the program itself is quite time bound, and the award period that our social entrepreneurs have is time bound, the kind of the changes to the support that we've put in place as a result of the co-design, like they are kind of extending beyond the life of the program as well. So like I mentioned, the pre-application workshops that have been really well received, they've been really helpful for people who are thinking about applying, aren't quite sure how to apply. Like they're not just benefiting the people on Funding Futures, they're benefiting anyone that might want to apply for us. So yeah, they'll be extending on, I believe. I hope I'm not just saying that wrongly, but I think that's correct. So yeah, so there's an element of kind of perpetuity there that extends beyond the funding cycle.
Brilliant, thank you. And a few last reflections from the COP Foundation, bringing learning from other funding programs as well. In terms of the cycles of funding, again, it's a process we're still developing and improving, depending on the funding program. I've just shared the funding program we launched recently. We had like almost a year kind of co-design process with the young people, which is really long and has a lot of resources. We're now co-designing a new funding program in the sustainability area, and because the funding cycle and the funding we have from the co-op business needs to be spent, the way we engage the young people in co-design are much more pragmatic, I guess, but also we choose to work with some of the young people who are already engaged and they're already kind of trained, I guess, and experienced in this area. In relation to the aging out, our model so far at the COP Foundation is that we have a collective of young people, and as the time progresses, we kind of refresh the collective. So we expect some people naturally will stop being part of the collective. So we always kind of bring, after a year or 2 years kind of engagement, new people, so that we still have young people with experience of funding and how they contribute, but we still bring, younger young people. And that really works well. And in terms of conflict, we work with an agency that has, I guess, expertise in that huddle. And they are giving us actually training later next week on engaging young people. And I've experienced firsthand where, we have an open discussion of a few young people, 15 young people, sharing the views, and sometimes there is some conflict. The best way to address that is to create breakout rooms so that, you kind of, the tension kind of moves, and then you have a facilitator in the smaller discussion that is much more able, to, I guess, ensure that all the voices are heard, that everybody is respected, but also setting the principles of, engaging in, young people engaging in this process and co-designing the principles of being part of this, group is also important about, listening, respect, training on DI, actually, how to be inclusive when we work together and things like this. And I'm really sorry, is it correct that we need to end this session?
We do. Thank you so much. Thank you for such an informative session and sharing the depth of your learning from co-design. These are such rich insights. I'd like to thank Asamina from the Co-op Foundation, Beatrice and Sabina from UnLtd, and the great insights shared from the Funding Future participants, Coleman, Eric, and thank you to everyone who has joined. So sorry that we have to end this really rich discussion. There will be more reflections shared afterwards in the email that we send out with the slide deck, and the emails of the facilitators are in that slide deck if you'd like to learn more. Our festival continues, so there are more sessions. Please check out the website, and a massive thank you to everyone, all of the facilitators that have shared today. Thank you, everyone.